A tremendous amount of struggle is what makes us who we are. But at some point, I'd really like the pain to go away. That's right! We're talking about my mobile game today because I've been working on it and oh boy, we're talking levels. And as you can imagine, it's been super easy, no problems, super simple, streamlined, not monotonous at all, because you know what they say, life is like a box of chocolates. It's very easy to get through. Mr. Content Development, here to crush the souls of his insubordinates. What can be a slow process, a painful process, an enjoyable process? My main focus has been around puzzles and level environments, where, like a great person once said, I created something. You see, the interesting thing about my game is that it's like a rock. It doesn't really move. And so, if you were to throw it at someone, their reaction would obviously be, oh yeah, this is a fun game, we should keep playing. So, with the levels, it's a kind of what you see is what you get. What's being created on screen is all there is to it. So, they're not exactly what you would call navigable, but that's because the puzzles are the real meat and potatoes of the game. And boy oh boy, there is a lot to choke on. You see, I encountered a complicated challenge around difficulty. Because I elected to abandon my humanity, I created endgame content that was akin to a brain-bashing nightmarescape consisting of long-form memory games requiring a surgeon's level concentration, but instead of medical malpractice, you got a phone that's all bashed. Though that wasn't necessarily a choice, because due to some project constraints and limitations, I became violently ill with quitter's sickness and had to fold before I lost time, money, and my dignity. This all resulted in a game with a lot less variety than was warranted. Not to say that the game isn't fun, but if I kept going on the trajectory I was, it would have been a very tall hill, Sisyphus. This all started to teach me about difficulty progression, which came with growing pains that I should probably get checked out because despite all the trouble I've gone through, it still hasn't quite come out looking right. Though this is what self-reflection and introspection are all about. Playing the blame game. So while I don't believe I've made the perfect product, it is a step on the journey of self-improvement. And it's allowed me to make lots of little messes along the way. Meaning that although smaller scope isn't inherently more appealing to audiences, it does allow for making more mistakes and participating in experiments that allows a game to come alive. Like, as an example, I've started dabbling in environmental storytelling, creating layouts and setups that have players wondering, what is that? While working within the constraints of only using fab assets to get that real store-bought vibe. Or exploring the foliage tool and how I can't get it to run well on my mobile testing device. Opportunities only afforded to those who don't have the whole weight of the world weighing on that one project. Yeah. No. I don't have that. I have other problems. Such as not knowing what I'm doing design-wise. Because, can I let you in on a little secret? I'm not a designer by trade. So I've got a lot of issues. But let's focus on the game development related ones. Like, at the start of the development, I decided to make a puzzle game without realizing that I'd decided to make a puzzle game. Certainly caused me to stumble and fumble in lots of ways that I did not expect. Because I don't know if anyone's ever told you this, but making a game is hard. And so putting the word puzzle in front of that makes it a way harder solve. it changes the way that you have to try and create levels. Like, instead of thinking of the level that you want to create, you now have to think about what the player is thinking. It's a complicated process that has you psychologically analyzing every action that your playtesters are taking in an attempt to create an experience that is enjoyable without being frustrating, and in the end, you don't even get your rocket science degree. It's not something that would be my first pick in the next go-around. And it isn't. I've already got plans to make another game after this one, and it is certainly not a puzzle game. But experimenting around with the unfamiliar is certainly worthwhile. Like participating in Give Your Wallet to a Stranger Day that a stranger had introduced to me. It expands your knowledge and teaches you lessons you didn't expect to learn, like how overthinking is the best approach. Because with this game in particular, you can't just think about what their current action is going to be, you have to think about what their future action is going to be, so that you can lure them into a false sense of security like any healthy relationship, so that they can have that aha moment when they realize what is wrong. And so while I won't be looking to crash the party with the next big puzzle gaming hit anytime soon, there's still a lot of lessons that I can draw from this to use in future projects. I guess the next interesting thing is about how I've had to adjust for the mobile platform. The model limitation, lighting limitations, the way I speak, the way I act, the way I look, the hardware specs, all the kind of stuff that you have to do just because of the platform that you're building for. Because, trust me buddy, you can't just make a level any which way that you want. You have to recognize its limitations and just keep working it until you get all the creases out and you get a phone that's no longer wrinkly and you get a solid 30 FPS, which I haven't actually quite hit yet. It's all about recognizing how your game will be played so that you can figure out where you can just kind of sweep things under the rug. Like, for me, you might notice that I only create 4 points of interest because the only type of movement that the player can do is the one off the toilet. There's nothing that they can do in-game that allows them to see anything that I don't want them to see. So essentially, there are just 4 still frames that the player can see, and everything else I can just send to the void. And yet still, I'm not quite hitting 30 FPS. Though in all fairness, I am using an $180 AUD phone, which, you know, might contribute a little bit to that, but that is part of the target platform I want to go for. So it's been fun, A/B testing, trying to figure out what's infesting my game with slow. But it's a little frustrating because I do have a production timeline. I'll have these ideas of a mushroom valley and a scrapyard, but only seem to create failures based off the performance indicators. Though I'm sure that I'll be able to figure it out, it is certainly a process that I'm going through and learning quite a lot about. And as much as it's difficult, it's important. There's a lot of teachings that the mobile platform has to provide to its developers, like how you think you're all that, but you ain't. It's not something to go underappreciated, and it certainly won't be forgotten. The last thing to talk about, I reckon, is making decisions, because when you're left there with a blank canvas, it's actually really hard to do. And I don't like hard. The thing is, when you create art, even art like this that's supposed to be a stepping stone into the future, you put your heart on your sleeve so that the people who do see it can look at it and go, oh, that's the decision you made? I'll often find myself considering whether I should make an environment that's intriguing, interesting, and maybe even looks good. Or should I go with something more comedic because I don't have the production capacity to make something truly magnificent, like when your code compiles first time? I reckon it's a challenge that I'll be facing far into the future with all different types of projects. A 24-hour, 365-day challenge. That's very real, very big. But that is actually going to be the end of this video. If you like it, then please leave a like. And if you want to see more, then please hit the subscribe button. Thank you all for watching. And you know what they say.